Our virtual event today is ECEDHA and IEEE-HKN, Partnering for Student Success. John Janowick, Executive Director of the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department Heads Association, ECEDHA, will moderate this panel session that will provide an update from ECEDHA and will highlight ways that ECE, EE, CE, and CS departments can work with their HKN chapters during the pandemic to help students succeed and build community. If you would like to post on Facebook about this event, please use the hashtags #HKNExperience and HKNx2020. At this time, I'd like to hand it over to Nancy Ostin, Director of IEEE-HKN.
Thank you, Stacy, and it's a great pleasure to be with our friends with ECEDHA today. We've got a great panel scheduled for you. IEEE-HKN, HKN has a great relationship with ECEDHA, and I really want to thank John Janowick, who I'm going to introduce next, for that. John's dad was really involved with HKN, and you've been very supportive of us through the years. We count on working closely with our department heads to support our chapters and to continue the work and the program and the benefits of EDHA for all those involved. So, John, I'm going to turn this over to you and our panel today.
Great. Thanks, Nancy and Stacy. Thanks for having us today. We have had just a tremendous relationship over the years with HKN, and really look forward to exploring how ECEDHA and HKN can work closer together, especially during these unique times. It's something that everyone is challenged with now. And traditionally, we'd have an opportunity, Nancy, to be together at the ECEDHA annual conference, which would have been held in March. We almost made it. We were just a few days away when the shutdown occurred, and so unfortunately we didn't have a chance to get together with all of our HKN friends this year at the annual conference. But we look forward to when we can do that together. And in the meantime, we're really happy to be participating with you here today virtually, and look forward to future opportunities to do this as well. Just to give you a little background, we have had a rich history, the ECEDHA organization, with EDHA-KNW. We worked very closely in the early days when EDHA-KNW's membership was kind of deteriorating a little bit, and we brought EDHA-KNW into the ECEDHA organization and really kind of revitalized it and re-energized it, through a lot of efforts of our team and the board members of HKN. And I know Steve and I have worked together, Steve Watkins, who you'll hear from a little bit, on that effort. And quite honestly, it was a Herculean effort to really kind of get HKN going in the right direction. And I just feel so happy and really, quite honestly, proud to be part of the HKN success story and our role in bringing HKN back to the forefront of engineering. And all of you who are involved in HKN should feel proud, because this is one of the finest engineering organizations out there. So ECEDHA, HKN have had a great symbiotic relationship for quite a long time. And, a little bit about our organization. The ECEDHA organization is really an organization that's dedicated to quality engineering education. And we do that through collaborations. And we have out of the engineering, and we're primarily ECE, and so we have all the electrical and computer engineering departments as members of the association, and so we have approximately 280 member institutions that actively are involved in working together. So there's collaborations between academia, academic members, and that happens almost on a weekly basis right now, through all of our interactions of our working groups and committees and program features. So we're quite proud of the academic to academic collaboration that goes on. The sharing that goes on is quite robust. I mean, you'll find that many people ask, how do you get so many people to share their ideas? And it's really, this sort of safe harbor feeling that we create within the organization to allow people to share their ideas. And so that's one sense of collaboration. The other is academia and industry, or industry to academia. And that's something that we've been doing now for almost 15 years within ECEDHA, and it's gone very, very well. We have a corporate membership program where we look towards industry to give us guidance on the next generation of engineering requirements and needs that they see, and also there's participation with our members in terms of looking at technology trends and research and education. And so there's a great feedback loop that's been created through Corporate Advisory Council, as well as our annual conference where we bring together nearly 50 organizations, corporate organizations that participate right alongside of our academic members. So that's a lot of fun. We enjoy getting that sort of guidance from industry. And the final collaboration that ECEDHA really enjoys is academic to government. And we have been fortunate over the years to have good relationships with the National Science Foundation and other agencies. But NSF has really been one of the stalwart organizations within the government that has seen the long-term vision and mission of the organization as an asset to engineering and engineering education. And so we are working with the National Science Foundation on several current grants, and also get solicited from the NSF on projects that come up, and we are always sort of stand ready to assist the National Science Foundation with activities that will advance engineering education. We've also had a great participation by HKN, as I mentioned earlier, at the annual conference. There's several things that we do, which and I hope in the future that we can see all of you at one of these annual conferences. But the HKN Awards are given out at the ECEDHA annual conference, and it's kind of dovetails into the ECEDHA Awards banquet or evening, and that's been a great collaboration where we can honor some of the top HKN chapters within the ECEDHA membership, and I know that many of the HKN board members come and participate, and we also have an opportunity to honor one of the top students in HKN. So it's been a lot of fun to I'm sorry?
Sorry, John, it was the Outstanding Student Award.
Yeah, right, the Outstanding Student Award. And then also we've initiated just recently a student conference at the ECEDHA annual conference, which was just launched a year or so ago, and that's something we look forward to doing in the future, as well as getting the word out to HKN in the exposition area in that annual conference. So net, ECEDHA has had this great collaborative relationship with HKN, and we look forward to doing that in the future. And certainly any involvement that any of you would like to have with our organization, we're open to that, and certainly take great pride in working with HKN and look forward to continuing that into the future. Nancy, any other comments before we start our session?
No, God, John, you covered a lot of it. We really do love our partnership with ECEDHA, and we really appreciate all your support. Katy actually is on the panel when we introduced her. She won the Outstanding Student Award. Maybe you remember her from that year.
I do, Katy. Yeah, Katy, congratulations on that award, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, so she's a HKN rock star. So we're really she serves on our board of governors, and she's really wonderful. So I can't wait to hear what the panel has to say from the ECEDHA president.
Fantastic. Well, let's start with Ashfaq. Ashfaq, do you want to kick the session off here?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for organizing this session and for this great opportunity. And as John was saying, that there's a lot of collaboration activities that are going on from the ECEDHA platform. And this year, it has just like any other organization, it has become a very challenging task to, in the midst of COVID, how to keep our community remain engaged and all the constituents involved. I think ECEDHA has really stepped up to the plate and has started offering, quite a number of online activities and collaboration opportunities for different, members and categories of members. Also, started offering multiple touch points throughout the year instead of having just one, opportunity to meet in person in generally in March. So I think knowing the restrictions and knowing the constraints that we have, I am really excited about all the new programming activities that ECEDHA is offering, and I look forward to interacting with all of you. And I think we can, with this particular panel, we can start our focus on the topic and maybe have some discussions going on. We have some very veterans of HKN and ECEDHA relationships from years, and also different perspectives as faculty advisor, as student leader, and also as an ECEDHA representation from myself and John. So with that, I think the question we have, John, you want to go through the questions? Do you want me to just start with some of the questions that we already have received?
Yeah, I think we can go. We can. Do we want to have a few moments with Steve and Katy real quick first, and then maybe circle back and do the questions?
Sure. So I think let's go through our panelists. So we have also Steve Watkins from Missouri S&T. Steve, would you just give us a brief history of how your involvement as a faculty advisor and also now as a department chair, interim department chair, if you could just give us a little bit of update on that.
Certainly. I'm very glad to be here and kind of representing several perspectives. I'm a department chair, as you mentioned, for Missouri University of Science and Technology, so I have that ECEDHA connection, and I've been to ECEDHA meetings through HKN in the past as well. But I have been a longtime faculty advisor at the Gamma Theta chapter at Missouri S&T, and it's been one of my favorite activities as a faculty member, getting to work with the students and seeing their accomplishments. I've also been involved in HKN at the higher levels. I've been on the board, and I was a HKN president in 2018, so I got to see that side of things. And I've done several years, and I'm currently the co-EIC for the Bridge magazine of HKN. So it's certainly an organization I think a lot of, and I think it does a whole lot of good. From the perspective of being a faculty advisor and even a department chair, one way I think of HKN as an organization on campus, it's really a junior partner in the educational mission. And I think of all the student organizations that we have available for our students, it's probably the one that's most suited for being that partner in making and really establishing the culture within the department among the students and providing a connection to students. So I view them as a junior partner, and I think that works out really well from both sides, from their side as well as ours.
Awesome, thank you. Katy, Katy is I would say, our rising star. And she had been a student leader of HKN, and I think in 2019 she received the Outstanding Student Award also. And currently, so she was at Missouri S&T, and I would just say that we have been very fortunate to have her here now join Iowa State University. And Katy, could you just give us a little bit of your intro and background and your involvement with HKN?
Sure. So hi, everyone. My name is Katy, and like it's been said, I'm here today to talk from the student perspective and the student leader perspective. So I went to Missouri S&T for undergrad and master's, and now I'm at Iowa State pursuing my PhD in electrical engineering. And how I originally got involved with HKN, I was inducted in spring of 2016 at the Gamma Theta chapter, and from there, I became eventually a chapter president, as well as an IEEE student branch president, got involved with the IEEE Instrumentation and Measurement Society as an undergrad rep and now a graduate rep to the AgCom there. And now I serve on the Board of Governors for HKN. So this is my second term as a student governor. And so as part of that, I get to work with chapters from all over the world, sharing ideas, sharing challenges, helping out those chapters, supporting them. And I also serve as the co-chair for the PR and Comms Committee for HKN too. So I did also receive the Outstanding Student Award of HKN back in 2017. So yeah, I'm really happy to talk with you all today, and I'm looking forward to all of your questions.
My bad. I think the time flies so fast. I thought that it was last year that we had you receive the award. But anyway, good to have you all here. And so, in terms of questions to the panel, I would say all the attendees, if you have any questions, please feel free to post them on the Q&A tab, and we will be able to pick them up from there. And if the question is for a particular panelist, please feel free to do that.
I see some questions here. If I'm going to go ahead and let you know what's come in so far. So someone asked, what is the common practices employed by the department chairs to ensure student success during these COVID times?
So I think I can take that question. There are so many different possibilities of interactions with students, and particularly now with COVID, those all mediums of interactions that we were granted to have, we had to face some constraints. So here, for example, at Iowa State, we have I used to have a regular mechanism of having a monthly meeting with all the student leaders in our department, be it HKN, be it IEEE, be it Digital Women, in the ACM, software engineering. So we had multiple, organizations whose leadership I would meet regularly every month, and the format was always, what are the burning issues and how they are through the grapevine or through their own mechanisms of getting to hear from students, what are the difficulties, any particular course, any particular, instructor. And it was a very, nice way of us getting to really get a, real-time pulse of how the semester was going on. Now with COVID, it has that particular meet once a month has become a challenge because of the asynchronous schedule of almost everybody on campus, and not having these organizations that active on campus, and therefore their own feedback mechanisms have gotten challenged. So I think in that regard, we as department chairs, we have went on to organize, again, through these student chapters, several student forums throughout the semester. I think we have done multiple forums with the grad and undergrad students, and had participation of sometimes about 70 to 80 students coming on to those forums. These are virtual forums. And then gotten the feedback from those students as to what's going on. And it was very interesting to really hear what the students have to share. And I can tell you that it was it was an eye-opening that there were some common themes that were really coming out of those forums. And one of the major common theme that really struck me was lack of motivation to succeed, lack of motivation to really follow the schedule, and then this was directly impacting the grades. And so and there were several other, we started, logging them as you can say, student personas, as to how different types of students in this COVID environment are existing, and how then we can, go back to our drawing table and see how we can address some of those personas and help them out. And in that regard, we are reaching out to our, organization, leadership and involving them into coming up with policies that are really addressing these concerns. So with that, I think I'll just stop at least for this answer, and I have several other anecdotal, points that I would like to bring, but I'll maybe wait for some other, comments before I.
Katy and Steve, you've been working through this with your chapters. I know, Katy, you're at Iowa State, a new chapter. I read your chapter report, so I know the kind of activities you're doing. So maybe you can talk about how you've been trying to mitigate, the remote, the changes that have had to happen this year, and the great things that you're doing, because you're doing some really awesome stuff, Katy.
Yeah, sure. So, I think in terms of student needs, there's a few different facets. One can be just needing more help with classes, needing more help with homework. Some of those mechanisms for asking your classmates for help or forming study groups have become less prevalent. So one thing we've been doing is we have Help Room, which is virtual tutoring. We have an online WebEx system where we have just open hours every weekday, as well as an appointment system. So somebody can go in and fill out a form and say, hey, I need help with this class, I'm available at this time, and then we can schedule an appointment with them to help work through their questions. Another aspect has just been kind of missing out on some of the hands-on learning opportunities, or just not, again, maybe not them being as accessible as they were before. I'm not saying that they've disappeared, it's just some of those mechanisms have changed. So we also did some online skill building workshops that were open to everybody. People could come on, join us on Zoom for 2 hours, and no experience required, learn MATLAB, GUI design, PCB design, or Arduino. And for Arduino, we used an online simulator, so no hardware required. Again, just trying to make it as accessible as possible. We've also been holding a semester-long problem-solving competition, and then trying to do some social events as well, just to kind of break up all the studying, all the busy schedules, just have some time to socialize too. So that's another thing that's kind of changed or gone away in some instances. So those are just some examples of what we've been trying to do at the new chapter here at Iowa State to meet some of these student needs.
So Katy, I've got a question. This is John Janowick. What sort of networking activities or socialization activities have you tried, and what have you found that actually has been very attractive for people to participate in? Because I think everyone, I know in our community, we're all trying to figure out how do we be social online as a group. I mean, without it being contrived, or without people feeling, oh my God, I've got to go and participate in the Zoom social hour or whatever. Have you done anything? I mean, anything that you can share with everyone that's worked for you, or something that's sort of grounded?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
So I would say we've tried a couple things this semester. Recently, we held an alumni panel where we invited 3 alumni who were HKN alumni, as well as ISU alumni, to just kind of chat with us on Zoom for an hour or so. And so we were able to ask them about their career, ask them about their time at ISU, hear some stories, those kind of things. So while that was a little bit structured, it was still kind of more of a casual conversation. We've also been trying to recreate our desserts and discussions event. So previously we would bring in a professor and we would have dessert and we would have a discussion. Now we're trying to do that online too. And so since we've been trying to hold a lot of events and hold them throughout the week, our attendance is typically between 8 to 15-ish. So it's not a huge group, so it's manageable to have a more casual conversation. We're also trying to do some game night things for chapter members, so playing trivia online or something like that. But even just at our general meetings, just kind of before and after, just kind of saying oh, how's everybody doing? How are classes going? Those kind of things. So those conversations that you would normally have if you went to a meeting on campus and you would sit and talk with your friend, we can kind of have some of that before and after the meetings too. So those are some things that we've been trying.
That's great. That's great. I'm sorry, Nancy, you were going to say something?
Yeah, that's okay. I was going to ask Steve Watkins, because as the department chair, you and I have talked a lot about the relationship between the department and HKN, and how the needs have actually grown during the shutdown, during the pandemic. How students don't have a lot of the same opportunities to meet others and get help in different ways, and other just drop in and find other students to study with. So as the department chair, what have you seen happening between, particularly your ECEDHA chapter, and other students? Because ECEDHA is supposed to help other students succeed, not just do things for themselves. So what other kinds of things have you seen, or what kind of need have you seen even greater during this time of shutdown?
Well, I think it's been hard on everyone, faculty and students, just going to this completely remote mode, particularly initially, and it's relaxed a little bit. But I think it means that we have to be much more intentional, because in the past I would see students maybe in the hallway, or if they were in my class, or I dropped by their meeting. Where now you have to make a special effort to do that. And I think the students also face a hurdle that they don't know exactly what the rules are, perhaps, particularly if they're trying to run an activity from the administration. What are they allowed to do? What are they not allowed to do? Can they have this sort of event, or can they modify it in a way that would get approval? And I think reaching out to the students, particularly as an advisor and or a department chair, is really important, to encourage them to make a plan and ask questions and make sure they're aware that as a department chair or faculty advisor that I can help out in terms of planning things and make sure that they are following the rules and not causing any issues that the administration would be concerned about. So I think that intentionality becomes really important. In terms of some of the things we've done that encourage a continuing activity, so that we can have a functioning chapter, whether it's HKN or IEEE or some of the other groups. I know we certainly wanted to have our pledging process and getting new members to come in, so we had to have the online induction. And HKN headquarters facilitated that by providing us some guidelines on that. And then the chapter just took off with it, again, with the support of the faculty advisors and the chair, So they organized it, made sure they had the Zoom access. Some of them had it, some of them didn't. So we were able to provide that. And then they came with the ideas of doing something social afterwards. So there's the games, similar to what Katy had mentioned. So it gave that social aspect of things. And then in the fall, we've had an alumni event as well through Zoom that was very successful. We had a Founders Day event for HKN. Typically we have one and have students come, but here we had to do it a little bit differently. So again, helping the students know that we can do these things. And in our case, we had, rather than everyone congregating around cake in the lobby, we handed out little Debbie cakes and those sorts of things. So students could come by one at a time and have some interaction. It wasn't all congregated, so we were still meeting the social distancing, but yet they still had that interaction there. So again, I think we need to be intentional and provide that support so the students are creating that culture so that students feel good about either maybe coming to campus for a low attendance event or coming online to do something. And I think the more they do it, the more comfortable they get with it.
Ashfaq, do we want to touch on some of the questions?
Say it again.
Do we want to touch on a few of the questions that I know that we had kind of prepared in advance here?
Yeah, I am looking at, we have already gone through some of those questions.
I see that.
Yeah. I'm just...
So there is a question here about what kind of support are student organizations like HKN Chapters looking for their departments or universities?
I can volunteer a little bit there. I think just having the facilities to do things, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes it's maybe having an HKN Zoom account that the university can provide so that they can have events, or maybe clearing the road for reserving a room or getting the approval to have things or things that they would need. So again, being intentional and thinking about what sort of regular activities have they had in the past and how can we do maybe some version of that in the current situation.
Yeah, agreed. I would say from a student perspective, there's a couple things that student organizations are typically looking for. One of them is just resources. So whether it be a space to hold meetings or store supplies, sometimes even some financial support as well to host certain events. Fundraising can be a really difficult thing for student organizations, especially on a college campus. You can be competing against hundreds of other student organizations for money from college kids who don't have a ton of money to begin with. So that can be hard. And even starting up, trying to go out to companies or alumni to get money. A lot of times student organizations, it's hard to know where to start with that. So if the department or the administration can offer some support for helping develop a donation program like that, or a donor program or corporate sponsor program, working with the student organizations to help get that started, I think can be a great way to support them and create a self-sustaining student organization in terms of financials as well. And then just also helping make connections too. Whenever professors or the department can help us connect to companies or to alumni to bring them in for our events, that can be a really big help as well.
And Katy, I know that getting connection with professors to go into the classrooms of perhaps first and second year students to promote EDHKN or to offer your services is also really important. So just that kind of access so that you can make yourselves available and make sure that that those services are known about throughout the department.
Right, definitely. Yeah, helping grow, I guess, the brand of the chapter across the department, across the campus. Professors can be a great way to get the word out too. A lot of times we've talked to professors about like certain workshops, for example. We can say to the professor that teaches signal processing, like, hey, we're hosting a MATLAB workshop that your students might be interested in. Would you mind sending them an email or mentioning it in class? You can direct them back to our website if they have questions, and just kind of that kind of thing as more targeted advertising as well can be really helpful.
Yeah.
I'm going to add a comment here as well. I'm sorry, Nancy. I was going to add a comment here as well, that one of the most important things I think that a department can do for any student organization, but HKN in particular, is to show up and not just sign off on forms and say, yeah, you can have an organization. You know, if you need me to do something, come and see me, but to actually show up for things. You don't necessarily even have to say anything, but if you come in, you know, if it's a in-person meeting, you know when their meeting's scheduled, you come in and you show up and you sit in the back and answer questions if asked. You may not be asked, but you're there. You're showing that it's important, and important from a department point of view. So I think, you know, just being there and making sure that you have access to the students can be incredibly important. And it doesn't cost anything but a little time. And it doesn't have to be everybody. It could be the faculty advisor, it could be the chair, but just show up for things on a regular basis.
So, Steve, when I've talked to department chairs, often they have goals, and I know you probably have goals for what you need to achieve as a department. Maybe it's around student success, maybe it's outreach in the community, maybe it's even student recruitment or retention. So, you know, I've talked to ECEDHA chapters, and some very department heads who use the ECEDHA chapters very successfully about how do they engage their HKN chapters, and how should chapters reach out to department heads to help them achieve the department's goals. Because I think sometimes we think about the chapter's goals, but really I try to counsel chapters to think about what the department goals are and how the chapter can be a volunteer service to the department chair and to the departments themselves.
Oh yeah, I think this is definitely an important role of HKN. I mentioned at the beginning that I consider them a junior partner in the educational mission, because they really provide a number of functions. They encourage our students in their careers through recognition. That's kind of the honor society side of it. Beyond that, it's really important from a networking point of view that faculty get to know students, and from those relationships, you might, you know, get a graduate student and a graduate student opportunity from the student point of view, which is very valuable. You create service opportunities. Tutoring is a very common one, but having peers do that tutoring, I think, is incredibly important, and the hours they can put in sometimes far exceeds what maybe a faculty member can provide. And again, they're providing a student perspective of things. So really looking for, you know, what are the needs and the opportunities that a student leader can do? You know, interacting with alumni, you have that extra connection there. Alumni love interacting with students, and who better for them to interact with than your really good students that are articulate, that are talented, that are looking for jobs. So those, I think, are some of the things that you can think about: connections to alumni, creating that social environment for the student body at large, and really just networking. You know, students know faculty, faculty know students, and you get that. And I think it really helps just achieving what you want. You want successful students to go out, have good jobs, and really accomplish that educational mission that they're successful. And if they're successful, you're successful.
I think another component, particularly during this COVID situation that has really arisen, is that how do we scale the level of help that students need beyond the standard TA platform. And that is definitely, I think that's where HKN can play a major role, where we want to go beyond the standard, because if we want to have a COVID, all the precautions that we want to implement, the number of students that a TA or other instructors have to deal with for larger classes, it becomes really difficult to reach out to each and every needy student. So in that regard, organizations like HKN, we have reached out at least at Iowa State to see if we can recruit some of the high-performing undergrad students to serve as mentors or models for our learner community. for example, demo a lab online through a virtual, setup, or, record the video of their understanding of how this one particular lab works and do it, rather quick turnaround time. So I think those are the things where we have implemented some things right now, but they have been done on a very ad hoc manner, in the sense that the need arose and we reached out and we reacted to that need. But now that we are into this situation, and I don't know how long we'll be in this situation. So therefore, we may need to really systemize this whole operation of getting these organizations involved to scale the help that students need in their day-to-day, successes in whether it's the lab, whether it's an assignment, and so on and so forth. So systemizing that thing, I think we need to sit down with our student leaders and see what kind of procedures we can put together so that it continues. And I think this is an opportunity for, whether it's beyond COVID, but it will create so many virtual possibilities in the future for students to have those resources available as and when they need it, rather than having them to come to a particular meeting or come to a particular session to get that help.
Right. EDHKN Anew launched a virtual tutoring center initiative right after the shutdown first started, to really encourage our chapters to take that kind of experience online. And again, not just to tutor even outside the discipline for people that have to take maybe one class in engineering or one class in computer science, so that they really need that extra help. But and also to get the socialization up, because that's so much the part of college, right? What you learn, the other kinds of skill sets that you learn by going to university, is sort of difficult online. I mean, and Katie, maybe you can talk about the skills that you learn by being a chapter leader yourself, which you learn by organizing programs, putting things together, putting these programs on. What kind of skill sets, and maybe for you, and talk about how that helps you, even if you want a career in academia or if you want a career in industry. I think those are really important skill sets that you learn as a student that translate into really marketable skills as a professional.
Right, definitely. I mean, I think Rafi said it really well yesterday at one of our sessions, that being a leader in HKN or any student organization, really, it teaches you how to work in a team, and not just a team of a couple people, like 2 or 3 people for a class project. We're talking about a team of maybe 10 plus student leaders, and you're all working together to try to create something to serve a need on your campus, whether that be academic needs, technical needs, professional development needs, or a combination of all those things. So being a student leader myself, I think one of the big things that it's taught me is, how to plan ahead, teamwork, organization, communication, writing, whether it be emails, advertisements, putting together presentations, even writing proposals for funding for student organizations. And all of those things, I think, are extremely transferable out into either industry or academia. In all the interviews that I've done for my internships, I've always talked about what I've done with IEEE and HKN and the design team that I was on. And those are the things that have given me all of those stories and experiences. So when an interview asks me something like, tell me about a time where you had to deal with conflict, or tell me about a time where you worked on a project that you were really proud of. It's these experiences in these student organizations that have given me so many answers to those types of questions and have really helped me in my interviews.
Yeah, real confidence builder. I know I talk to a lot of student leaders, and I know department chairs are looking at building well-rounded students. I mean, you're educating to the highest level. So no doubt that the engineering education is wonderful, but it's the other kinds of skills and supporting organizations like HKN, how it helps develop that. So Steve, as someone who competes very poignantly to get the Outstanding Chapter Award each year, I know it means a lot to you, and I know you put a lot of effort to make sure that your chapter does that. What can you tell other department chairs that might be listening about how to make sure that you support their chapters? Because I think it's kind of fun. John mentioned it. We had those beautiful plaques at the ECEDHA conference. So what advice can you give for someone who wants to make sure they get one at the next ECEDHA meeting?
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful recognition for the chapter that shows that they've been fulfilling their mission, however that's formulated for their particular group. And each chapter, each institution may be a little bit different in what set of activities they have. But the point is that you have a functioning chapter and you're meeting needs. It all doesn't have to be the same. And I think that, going after this award is something that gives the chapter pride in itself. It also gives the department chair something to brag about, whether it's among their department chair peers or with other departments on their campus or so forth. But I think it's a wonderful program that we can point to a chapter that's functioning well and achieving recognition for not only the chapter, but their home institution. So I think having, again, paying attention to that, perhaps using it as motivation for the chapter leaders, say, here's an opportunity that you can leave a legacy for your chapter, that you've accomplished something as a team, during the year that you were president or officer or whatever. So again, making sure that this is kind of uppermost in their mind. It's got to be the students that do it, and the faculty can't do it. But I think having that encouragement and having that kind of institutional memory of what's possible and what opportunities are out there, and this I think is a wonderful opportunity for recognition, to just make sure that they're aware of that, and again give that little push. And I found with the type of students we have in HKN, it doesn't take much of a push for them to get all excited about it and start using their initiative and think of things that I would have never thought of, but they accomplished it, and it's something, probably the biggest problem I have is making sure you take pictures and fill out the paperwork so that you can get recognition for what you've done.
That's great, Steve. I know, because I love meeting with those with the department chairs, and I know they love receiving the award. But really, it's the students that do all the work, that do so much of the work, and it's a great program. I'm sorry, did somebody else have a question?
Yes, I was going to ask Katy and Steve, is there in HKN and other organizations that are partnering with HKN, is there, in this COVID time, is there a mechanism of any chapters out there that that they have employed mechanisms of getting students feedback on how they are doing, what are the difficulties in their learning? Is there something, a question, or feedback bank that department chairs could take a look at and then, come up with policies to mitigate those situations? Because having at one university is one thing, but having at multiple departments across the platform, and then coming up with policies that may be more deeper and long-term policies we can come up with.
Right. I would say that we don't have anything that's really centralized right now. We do host through HKN monthly chapter leaders calls where we invite chapter leaders from all over the world to get on the phone for an hour and talk about what we're doing with HKN, and also just talk to them about what they're doing at their chapters, what their challenges are, and those kind of things. So we do have information coming in that way, as well as through our activity reporting system for just what chapters are doing. In terms of kind of general student status, I can only really speak to what I've heard personally from other students at other universities. And it varies, it seems to be varying a lot, kind of depending on how that university is operating right now. Some universities are doing compressed semesters that are pretty much all online or hybrid. And it seems like a lot of students there are just kind of struggling to keep up because with the compressed online semester, there's a lot happening all at once, and so it's harder to keep up with classes. In some universities, maybe it's more so some more in-person classes, so it's varying a lot, I think, across different universities, but in general, chapters have been saying that it's been harder to engage students just because everybody's so busy, or kind of saturation of the online event market where you're competing with webinars from everywhere right now to try to get attention from people and get them to your events as well.
So this is exactly one. I think this is a great, anecdotal, evidence that majority, for example, you're saying majority of the feedback that you have gotten is that the students' disengagement or lack of, ability to follow schedules. And I think if we can, at HKN level, if we can come up with a set of, survey or questionnaires that we can distribute to all the chapters and say, can we get feedback from different, departments on what are the common difficulties? Then we can share those things with our department chairs and on a much bigger scale, and we can put a task force to address how a department can come up with policies rather than everybody inventing on their own, having some kind of a response that would be more uniform across the board, or at least some guidelines that could be followed by the department chair, and then they can fine-tune their policies according to their own systems. I think that's where HKN help would be really, really very beneficial to the departments. But I see this is one of the major problems in student success is that they are unable to follow schedule. They have a lack of motivation. They don't feel that they are learning enough. And if we really see that we are going to graduate students who are not as well prepared as their peers a few years ago, it is going to impact the workforce for several years to come. So I think we need to partner on these things to make sure that we don't fail on these students. It's our responsibility.
Well, that could be an awesome outcome of this session. I know, John, there was a question in there too about joint programs that we think would be possible. So I'm willing to work with ECEDHA on this, and I'm sure I can volunteer Katy and Steve, right? Right, Katy and Steve?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
To look at this issue. So John, what do you think? You think we can maybe continue this discussion and with some other department chairs?
Absolutely. I mean, we're living through just incredible times right now, and the thing that I keep trying to do is keep a very positive attitude and outlook and saying, okay, what can we learn from this, and how can we come out the other end stronger and better? And so I think, all the tools that we're utilizing now, in terms of distance learning and virtual labs and, everything that we've been forced to do in the last few months, finding a way that, we can take those experiences and even more, and from everything that we're talking about here, how can we continue to take the best of the best that we've gone through during this COVID period and once this is over, how do we apply that? So I think ECEDHA, as Nancy, we're always open to working with HKN. HKN is one of the most important engineering organizations out there, and quite honestly, we feel honored to work with you. So, I think we get Steve and Katy and Ashfaq. Maybe we can identify a few of our leaders to get together and find a way that we can get a working group and see how can we better facilitate this relationship.
Yeah, I think that would be a great service to the departments and to the students if we can really work with at the national level with these student organizations and try to understand how we can all operate and administer and govern better in these times with the focus of student success, student learning.
Well, I'm excited about that. I think that could be really a great project for us to work on together and to pursue. Any final thoughts in the last minutes of the hour we have together?
I have one I'd like to mention. A few years ago, Nancy and I wrote a paper that we submitted to the ASE Gulf Southwest Section Conference. I think it was 2018. And this paper had to do with best practices of honor societies. And of course, Nancy and I used HKN as an example from what we had learned through the years and what seems to work for us and how you view a chapter. And I think with the audience I suspect we have for this, that may be a good paper that might help you think about how HKN can be integrated into your institution. And that's in the postings that we have for this session. That was my commercial.
Well, it is an awesome paper. Yeah, it's an awesome paper, Steve. You're so awesome.
That's good.
I thought Nancy would agree, yes.
No, I think, John, this could be something that we should really, maybe put together a more structured, process around it and see if we can get going.
That sounds great. Yeah, I think Nancy, why don't we connect and we have working groups that could take on. We can assemble a working group and try to lay out a project plan that would get some concrete results. So I'd be excited to be working together on something beyond what we've done the last couple of years together.
Well, I know there's board members on the phone listening to this session, so I'm sure I can get them to agree, and I look forward to doing that. Katy, any last thoughts before we close the session for today?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, if there are any student leaders on the call or any faculty advisors on the call for HKN Chapters, I just want to commend you for all that you've been doing in these crazy times, putting together events, trying to help students. When you're going through the same things too, it's not an easy task. And so thank you for all that you're doing too for your departments. It's really appreciated from the student side as well. And yeah, just thank you for all that you're doing for helping out students in these times.
Yep, it's double hard. In regular semester it's hard, but in this time when everybody's struggling, you as student leaders rising up, facing your own struggles, and then also helping others who are struggling, that's definitely commendable. And thank you so much for doing that.
So, John, any final thoughts where we close up today?
No, I just really appreciate the opportunity to get together with HKN and all the students that leaders that have been on this call. Please go to our website, ECEDHA.org, ECEDHA.org, to learn a little bit more about us. And it sounds like we'll find one or two more things to collaborate on. Steve, that was my commercial.
I'm looking forward to that, John. Well, I want to thank our panelists today. Thank you, John. Thank you for joining us, and those of you on the phone for joining in the discussion today and the conversation. And obviously more to come.